Hey, Britt, I got some ideas for upcoming episodes. Whose computer's that?
Oh, it's your laptop. I wanted to find out who else was hosting on Fox Nation, so I figured I could just go to the website quickly, or I'll just go through your search history.
Whoa, nope.
What's wrong?
No. What if we found another way? I'm sure we can just go amongst the people.
People.
Or maybe talk to some of the hosts?
I guess we could go to the source.
The source, yeah, let's go to the source.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Let's go. We're here to talk about your great new show, and just before we start, I have fashioned my tie fashion around you. The first time we met, he had at least 5 or 6 different ties in his hands, and the ones he wasn't wearing, he was willing to sell. Yeah. And this is one of those bad boys right here. I'm very proud of that. Tell us about this amazing show of yours on Fox Nation.
We monitor the government as it interferes with liberty, prosperity, and private property.
It's a reality check. Life is more than politics, pop culture, correcting the news, stars, bars, legends, history by those who wrote it. We got some great people in this country. Let's tell their story.
I stopped at bars.
Whoa, I almost fell. Did I fall in here?
Wow, we just got outnumbered, but we are not outclassed.
Oh, I like that.
The new show is called Starnes Country, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We're talking about TV for all of those gun-toting, Bible-clinging deplorables.
Oh, I love it. Love it. One second. Excuse me, ladies. We're trying to do a show here. Okay? Thank you.
I'm a guy with opinions on just about everything. I think I was tailor-made for Fox Nation, and you're going to hear opinions on everything and anything that comes across my path. Specifically, I think it's time Americans heard from immigrants who love America, and I'm one of them, and you're going to be hearing a lot about that.
The other thing that we do sometimes on the show is if we're really disagreeing at length and we're up on a commercial break, we're each trying to say the very last word, and sometimes we're getting like awfully close to getting cut off.
You know what? I know a lot about the last word. I have that disease too. Like, I have to get the last word in.
We both do.
Can I ask, what's so exciting to you personally for Fox Nation?
I get to talk more. You know, like Greg, he keeps handcuffs on me and just has me like finish everything. Now he's not, like, he's, hey, Dyrus, you're the anchor. You get to talk last. So now I get to talk first. So I'm kind of excited about that. I would be remiss if I did not bring it up, because while we are excited to be down here with the people in Fox Nation, I was upset because the rumors of your fortress of solitude, of your office with the leather-bound books and the knowledge, and the whole room smells like mahogany, and you get smarter when you go in there. At some point, can we please just sit in the office for a few minutes?
Yes, as long as you bring a camera and a microphone with you.
We are in a very divided state right now, and it's okay to be divided. It's not okay to be mean, violent, or any of those things.
It's a lot of venom.
How will you take the venom out of the bite?
Well, one of it has to do with our verbiage. We're going to single out the individual. When you make choices, your political affiliation, just like your race, has nothing to do with the choices that you make. It has to do with the character of the content of your character. So we're going to focus on that more. And also that has to do with people do things well. Come on in. We're not doing anything. Get in here. You have well, I love you too. And I do love her too. Hello, and welcome to Fox Nation Launch Special. I'm Tyrus, along with Britt McHenry, and for the next hour, we're going to give you a sneak peek at some of the brand new shows you'll have access to on our new members-only streaming service.
It is full of one-of-a-kind documentaries and exclusive daily shows from your favorite hosts, probably including the two of us, but including all of those good folks you just saw us talk to at the Fox Nation party. Plus, you'll see Greg Gutfeld, Brian Kilmeade, and Dana Perino, who are all joining us here tonight.
And of course, our show, UnPC, the name speaks for itself, or as I like to say, enough said. But to give you more of an idea of what it is, we're going to play a little game. What are the un-PC things you wish you could have said at Thanksgiving dinner, but you don't?
That's right. Number 4, how were the mashed potatoes? Well, Aunt Deborah, actually dry and terrible, and they've never been good, really, ever.
And number 3, holiday dinner is not the dinner to come out and announce, we're getting engaged. Guess who's going on a mission? It's not about you.
So it's probably a bad time to announce. No, just.
We'll miss you on your mission.
And number 2, it's 2018 Uncle Gary. So leave your Bernie Sanders hat at home.
We are doing something very radical in American politics. We're telling the truth.
Yeah, Uncle Gary. It's bad enough to put up with your old man smell, let alone the hat.
I restrained myself on that one.
You did good.
It's been
Proud
2
of you.
years, yeah.
And coming in at number 1, drum roll, please. Because I think this one applies to everyone. I'm only here for the food and the game. And guess what? Newsflash. Not helping clean up either.
You know what? No, that's not what I want.
You just said that you want me to help you do the dishes.
I want you to want to do the dishes.
Why would I want to do dishes?
The good thing is, if you have any family members like mine, my mother, great woman, she's so controlling of the kitchen that I purposely don't do as good of a job because I know it won't measure up, so then I get out of it. I get out of all the chores.
Sounds like an issue.
And now she knows my secret. I just put that
Hi,
on
Mom.
TV. Hi, Mom. All right, let's take a look at some of the other amazing programs coming soon exclusively on Fox Nation.
I miss walking down the hallway to his office, joking around, talking about life, talking about business, whatever it is.
Our greatness, our willingness to fight when challenged, dates back to even before we had a president.
The confessed gunman, Bernhard Goetz, is in a special cell on Rikers Island tonight.
Another time and another story remembered, but always our America.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
That is the moment where George Washington proves what a leader he is to all of his men.
The biggest mistake conservatives made in the past half century was to vacate the universities and hand it all over to liberals.
You get looked at a certain way, always being a smart big guy.
To Fox Nation.
You have to get through the crust. French based still. For me, chili is comfort food.
Wow, you nailed it! What do you think about a Trump-Biden matchup? They've threatened to fight each other.
He leaned toward us like this and said, "Gentlemen, I know why you're here. Are you here because of the dead body in the basement?"
Tawana Brawley was a pawn.
She had no injuries from an assault. What is this all about?
This is one of a number of history books that you've written, and it's really timely.
Do you ever wonder how Make-A-Wish Foundation grants thousands of wishes every year?
Documents at the heart of Dan Rather's report are now called into question.
Many fear the war has come to our shores.
With great admiration from an entire nation, welcome home.
And then she said, Senator Kennedy, obviously we need to talk to you. Can you come down here? And Kennedy says, I prefer you come to me.
And just remember, it's always on demand and completely commercial free. Fox Nation launches this Tuesday, November 27th. So there is still time to become a founding member where you will receive some pretty cool exclusive perks. So stop wasting time. Go to foxnation.com to sign up right now.
So what comes before Tuesday?
Monday?
Not just any Monday, Cyber Monday. Before you start drinking and getting your Amazon priming on,
Too late.
check out our un-PC holiday gifts ideas. Number 5, a 1-year subscription to Fox Nation that comes with the Founders Challenge coin.
That's pretty cool.
Number 4, a 2-year subscription to Fox Nation.
Yeah.
You get the Founders hat with the challenge coin.
I'm a big hat person, so that's appealing to me.
And number 3, kids, you're gonna love this. A set
What's
of
over
not
there?
not one, not 2, not even 3, but 4 Tyrus action figures.
Let me see that one.
All right.
This is what I'm getting for Christmas from him.
You can pay me later. All right, number 2, a 3-year subscription to Fox Nation. You get the Founders Challenge coin, the Founders hat, a set of rock glasses, or if you really want to go big, and of course in Fox Nation and Fox News fans, we only know how to go big or go home, you can get the 3-year subscription with the tactical watch. Let's look at that. It's up on the big screen because I just got a handful of goods here. And finally, the number 1 gift this holiday season, drum roll.
What is it?
It's the Britt McHenry Holiday Rap Album.
I actually can rap. It's a hidden talent. Do you want me to do it right now?
I think the world needs to know. I'm just going to hold on to myself.
I'm going to take an Eminem verse. So the FCC won't let me be or let me be me, so let me see. They try to shut me down on MTV, but it feels so empty without me.
Word. Hey, Snoop, if you're out there, remember that song that we were talking about that you were looking for? It's right over there.
I mean, I know he just wants to sign me now. But
you can get an
all
autographed
should sign
copy
up.
of it. What she heard with her hit song.
Not my rap album. We can find those for you if you want.
Don't go anywhere. Up next, Greg Gutfeld joins us to discuss his new Fox Nation show. And later, Brian Kilmeade and Dana Perino will be here. But first, here's a sneak peek at one of the documentaries you'll only be able to see at Fox Nation.
Give me some of the memories that you remember.
I played with Legos on his floor. I'd rollerblade around the offices at Trump Tower, and it was certainly amazing. We didn't have the free time because we were working. There's no closer 3 siblings in the world than 3 of us, and we make an awesome team. We have the largest winery on the east coast of the United States, the largest winery east of the Mississippi in Charlottesville, Virginia. The most beautiful properties anywhere in the world.
Am I allowed to be cheesy and say we made it great again?
November 8th, if you can possibly believe it.
That is funny.
And November 8th is a big day in our lives.
What's going to be most important for you to pass on to Luke?
Certainly work ethic, love of what you do. I always loved the construction. I wanted to sit on a tractor. Hey, if he doesn't love the real estate stuff, I don't want him to do it. I just want him to be a good little boy, with his own dreams and vision and make a meaningful impact on society in some way.
See you later. See you later. It is different. I miss walking down the hallway to his room and to his office and joking around, talking about life, talking about business, whatever.
The reason I stood by him on that stage every single day, Ivanka did as well and Don did as well, because we knew he could achieve everything that he's achieved in office. Quite frankly, if I didn't think he could, I wouldn't have been there. I wouldn't have gone through that process.
Scarves off.
Nation's Lawn Special. Now, I am very excited about our next guest. You know him as the guy who introduces me every week on his weekend show, The Greg Gutfeld Show, Saturday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern. But today, I'll return the favor. He puts the all in small, the eep in creep, and his ancestors ate unicorns. Joining us today is Greg Gutfeld, and his new Fox Nation show is called One Smart Person and Greg Gutfeld. Funny, I'm smart, yet I have not got an invite.
Well, technically, the show really hasn't started yet, but you will be on, definitely. As soon as I start just running out of guests, you'll be right up there.
Thank you. It's always nice to have your mentor on.
You'll be like the Christmas Eve call, like
that he's
midnight.
not doing the show.
Yeah, when Bill Hammer cancels, you're in. No, but the whole point of the show is like all hosts like to think they're the smart person, but this is about like one smart person and me. So it has to be somebody that has like got a really sharp mind, like you, both of you.
Well, you are
together.
You're a best-selling author.
Yes,
you have 2 hit shows.
That is true. Thank you, Tyrus.
So how do you find someone smarter?
Ooh, that's a good question. What I do is I have a little book of IQs, and I just go through them, and I go, oh, there's one. It's people I'm interested in. Like I hate to tell you, but I spend most of my time watching podcasts, which is really depressing.
And you do a podcast.
Yeah, I do a podcast.
Jack of all trades.
Yes. So if I find like a neuroscientist or a psychologist or a terror expert or whatever, I want to talk to them. So that's why it's always one really smart person and me. And I try to ask the questions that anybody would ask. Dumb questions, essentially.
Well, you've interviewed a lot of big names and on the channel as well. So who's on the top of your wish list?
I want to get who's the dude, the actor who's kind of nutty? Well, that narrows it down.
Yeah, there's a lot of those.
He's got not Gary Busey. His brother is famous. Randy Quaid.
Oh, Randy Quaid. Oh, yeah.
So Dennis Quaid is the hugely successful. Randy was very successful, but Randy's started on a different path now. He's like, does these weird tweets where he recites Trump's tweets with a flashlight, and it's very, very creepy. But I've been trying to get him. I'm trying to get him, but he's like kind of, I don't know where he lives.
If you didn't know, our new show is called UnPC, and you hosted Red Eye, which was kind of the original UnPC.
Right.
I'm basically banking my whole career off your footsteps. If you would have any advice for us, what story, like, what would you say? What would probably the biggest thing that you did?
I came in from magazines. I had no idea. I mean, I did TV. I was on Fox and Friends, and I did O'Reilly when I was an editor of magazines, but I came in as a guest. I had no idea how a TV worked. I'd never done a teleprompter. I didn't know who the roles were. So I was often rude to people without really knowing I was being rude, or I would like yell at somebody because I was incompetent. Like when I would screw up, I would yell at somebody because I was embarrassed. And then I would realize that person really thinks I'm an a-hole, and he deals with a lot more successful people than me. So I always learned that to be humble for the whole time, and then people will love you if you're humble. Number two, listen to people. I think my first segment on Red Eye was exactly the worst thing you could do at Fox News.
Interesting that you would bring that up, because we were looking for, stories, and I thought, what did my mentor do? And so we were going to try to do the same thing that you did.
Right.
But, I believe we have the footage. If we could cue that up, that would be phenomenal.
Hey, this is Red Eye, a new show about politics, pop culture, and macrame. It's kind of like Larry King, but without the dead guy. And I'm Greg Gutfeld. First thing we're going to talk about, since it's our first show, porn. All right, I can give you a number of. Let me give you a play-by-play on that. Number one, the guy to my left was Andrew Breitbart with like a crazy ass, like Middle Ages haircut. He should have had a little flute, but you could see I wasn't reading the teleprompter because I hadn't learned. I was obviously incredibly uncomfortable. You could see it, and the music was bad.
Your hair looked great, though.
It did, yeah. But I was much fatter then because I was stress eating. And I will tell you the truth, before that segment, probably had 3 shots. We had no idea what we're doing. So that meant just you had to drink your way through it. And I think I did that for like 2 weeks with like shots. And then you go in. But the one thing you learn about alcohol, you may think you're doing better, but you're actually doing worse.
Yes.
You just start sweating. It's like you may get through it and go, hey, that was pretty good. But when you go home and look at it, you are sloppy and stupid. So that's my advice. Also, always pick guests who, they don't have to be famous. They could just be fun and interesting. If you have to choose between somebody who's famous, but somebody who's a great guest, pick the great guest.
And on that note, limit the alcohol and Reese's, because that's what I hit up at the minibar, too.
Yeah.
Might have happened last night.
Very expensive.
Yes. Don't move a muscle. Brian Kilmeade joins us next to discuss his Fox Nation show, What Made America Great.
Boo, Kilmeade. Boo.
But first, here's a look at what's coming up this month on Fox Nation.
I'll put the money in the pockets of my coat. Mopped up.
Of course he was mopped up. How were you going to get to the top?
This community wants justice.
We heard you acting like you was big and bad.
Welcome to What Made America Great. I feel like we're in a place that most people think does not exist. And this is my world right here. Here's to Fox Nation.
They borked the guy. Culturally, our country is in trouble.
It's Britt McHenry, and we are in Satellite Beach, Florida.
During the confirmation, they were trying to knock me off.
There's 2 forms of justice in this country. There's one for the rich, and there's one for the rest of us.
We're launching an effort which holds the promise of changing the course of human history.
morning, I entered a plea of guilty to the charge of leaving the scene of an accident.
Of why people are trying to get into our country.
I don't dispute that. I think that you have to have a comprehensive approach here. But again, I just go back to trying to deal with the sort of immediacy of the situation. And it's certainly a challenging one because you can't just say, okay, everybody come on in. But is shutdown possible over this issue?
Well, I think it'll be interesting to see that. It really is in the president's hands. I mean, the president wasn't in power, of course, when we did have that brief shutdown associated with Ted Cruz and the Affordable Care Act. I heard you say earlier that it's going to tick people off at both parties. If the president of the United States, who already is a historically unpopular president, is seen as causing the inconveniences and other problems associated with the government shutdown, it's going to be a real political problem for him. It won't be the Democrats in the House of Representatives that are shutting down the government. It'll be the president.
Don't worry. There's plenty of blame to go around. Unfortunately, Congress is not very high on anyone's list. But let me just quickly ask you, speaking of that, someone who is trying to position herself again for another big job there is Nancy Pelosi. And it seems as though she's the one in line. Do you agree with having Nancy Pelosi there as Speaker, or do you worry that the party needs new people, new faces in light of the challenges you guys have faced?
Well, look, both are true, right? I mean, we obviously, when the top three people in the House of Representatives are in their late 70s, it would be good for us to have a more diverse group generationally. I mean, if you're my age and younger, and there are plenty of folks younger, you sort of want a more diverse group generationally. But let me tell you this. I mean, the attack on Nancy Pelosi was, prior to the election, that she's such a drag on the electoral prospects of Democrats. You can't win with Nancy Pelosi. Holy smokes, did that criticism turn out to be wrong? Not only did we retake the majority in the House of Representatives, we won in places we'd never imagined we could win, like Oklahoma, like Kansas, like South Carolina. And so the premise that Nancy Pelosi somehow keeps the Democrats from winning, look, you just need to look at what happened 3 weeks ago to know that that is not true.
It's a good fundraiser. Anyway, good to see you, Congressman Hines. Very good to see you. Thank you for joining the program. Okay, what should we expect from President Trump's upcoming meeting with China's leader? We've got a preview for you right here next.
I'm at this wing joint telling people that Geico's been offering savings for over 75 years. That's longer than the Buffalo Wing's been around.
Dozen wings.
And did you know that Geico offers motorcycle insurance? Oh, my lips are burning. No, my lips are actually burning.
Geico. Over 75 years of savings and service. See how much you could save at geico.com.
It's too hot. This is too hot, mate.
Tired of your old frying pan? Well, stay tuned to get a free State of the
Kingdom and the European Union reaching an agreement on the terms of Brexit before the UK's official break from the bloc on March 29th. But nothing's exactly guaranteed, of course. The deal still needs parliamentary approval before negotiations on new trade or security relations can actually begin. Joining me right now, Christian Whiten, a former senior advisor in the Trump and George W. Bush administrations. He's also a senior fellow for strategy and public policy at the Center for the National Interest. Also, the author of Smart Power, Between Diplomacy and War. Lots of credentials. Christian, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Okay, so what should we think of this Brexit thing? Is it getting any closer?
I don't think so. I think what really this is the beginning of the end of Theresa May's career. What she has sold to the Europeans is just a real stinker. This thing does not achieve Brexit, really. It betrays Brexit. It will keep Britain in the European Trade Union, their trade tariffs and customs. All it does is delay what Britain really needs, which is to negotiate a free trade agreement with us and look to a post-Brexit future. And as you point out, this is very unlikely to pass Parliament. Over 100 members of Theresa May's party will probably vote no. Labour, the Lib Dems vote no, so it's probably dead on arrival.
Is Theresa May part of the problem then? I mean, I don't think she ever totally bought in, right? I mean, she's different than, say, some of the others that really got behind Brexit. Is she one of the reasons, or some might even say the primary reason, why this just hasn't gotten off the ground the way it should?
She is. She sort of demonstrated that she is politically talentless through this. She never had her heart in the matter. She was for Remain. She voted against Brexit. It was sort of odd to make someone from that disposition prime minister after her predecessor quit. A number of ministers, even some who were willing to split the difference on Brexit, have left her cabinet, including the person in charge of negotiating the Brexit deal with the EU. So really the wheels seem to be coming off the car.
Let me ask you, Christian, about G20 now, because, you know, obviously China's been very much in the news and in the headlines, especially with this president who's taken on some of these trade issues and the theft of intellectual property in a way that we just haven't seen quite so openly before. Are we going to get anywhere? Are we going to get any closer to you know, seeing some kind of stop to the IP theft or to some of the tariffs?
I think we will eventually get there, and it's very important. President Trump is the first president to really draw a line and push back on the Chinese. However, the idea we're going to get to some big deal on the sidelines of the G20 summits are always irrelevant. This will be an important meeting. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I think President Trump is bending over backwards to be open to making a deal. But if you look at the Chinese dictator, Xi Jinping, the strongman, he really doesn't appear to be in a position yet, in a mood yet, to make the major reforms that are necessary. China's economy is based so much on stealing foreign technology, and he's in a politically weak position himself. The economy there is slowing down. If you look at his conduct at APEC, Vice President Pence was down there for that. Rude, belligerent Chinese leader there. And if you look at what their focus is so far in Buenos Aires, they seem to be very focused on protocol, who gets to attend what meeting and where they're going to sit, and less on sort of any indication or signal that change is coming.
Well, turning now to the Republicans on the House Judiciary Committee issuing, rather, Christian, I think, am I going to goodnight you here? All right, I'm going to let you. Sorry for the lack of eloquence on that one, sir, but I'm going to let you go on that note. Hopefully something better comes out of G20. And now I'm going to turn, of course, to the Republicans on the House Judiciary Committee, who are issuing subpoenas for James Comey and Loretta Lynch to testify behind closed doors. It's all part of their investigation into the DOJ's actions leading up to the 2016 election. Mr. Comey responding on Twitter saying he's happy to testify but wants to do it in public. Here to talk about all of it, none other than Professor Alan Dershowitz, law professor emeritus at Harvard Law School, also the author of The Case Against Impeaching Trump. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
In person.
Yeah.
So your take on this? I mean, is this a last-ditch effort?
Well, both sides are abusing the investigatory process. Investigations are supposed to lead to legislation. That's the role of Congress. And yet they use these for revenge, to get even, to score political points. It's just wrong. It's wrong when the Democrats do it. It's wrong when the Republicans do it. And it's foolish the Republicans doing it now because the Democrats are coming in. They're just going to do it twice as much or 3 times as much. And the American public is going to just be paying for subpoena after subpoena, testimony after testimony, and we're not going to learn anything.
So all these investigations, and yet, I mean, you've been so critical of the Mueller investigation from the very beginning. You think it's a waste of time, a waste of taxpayer dollars?
I do. I think there should have been investigations of specific crimes by sitting U.S. attorneys. But I do think there should have been a nonpartisan commission set up to look into the Russian influence on the election without necessarily trying to indict anybody or pointing fingers. We would have learned something. We're not learning anything from these investigations. By the way, I think Comey is right. If he's going to be interrogated, let him do it in public, because we know that otherwise things are selectively leaked. Yeah. So there's no reason why it shouldn't be public.
I don't blame him for that either. And, you know, and I like to see what's going on.
Of course.
I like to know, as a citizen, what are they asking him? What is he saying? And have that unfiltered version of what is going on.
These secret investigations are all gotcha. You know, oh, we'll ask you questions in secret. Maybe you'll say something that contradicts somebody else, and maybe then we can send it over for further investigation by the Justice Department. Look, I think the American public wants to see bipartisan work. We now have a Democratic House coming in January. Let them work together. Let them produce legislation on immigration, legislation on health care, legislation on the environment.
Yeah, right.
But this idea
as though that's going to happen.
Right.
I mean.
But the idea of just spending all the time on investigations, and they're not investigations. They're just gotchas. They're just trying to get even political. Well, I wouldn't use that term, but they are political events designed to score points for their party, and that's just not the right way to use Congress.
I agree with you, and I worry that increasingly we're seeing this breakdown in Washington, where they're, as you say, they're not looking at actually meaningful immigration reform or other policies that will get us forward, but rather it's, you know, how do we stick it to the other side? I anticipate a lot of investigations coming forward now that you've got the Democrats in charge of the House.
Sure. First of all, the 2020 presidential campaign has begun already. So we're going to see everything geared to 2020, to the congressional races, to the Senate races, to the presidential race. We're going to see politics for the next 2 years. And, you know, whether the Republicans win or the Democrats win, the American public loses.
How do we ever get anything done? I mean, it's amazing, right, that, that this country functions as well as it does.
I grew up at a time when Ted Kennedy was friendly with Orrin Hatch, when Joe Biden got along with people on the other side of the aisle. Today, it's become so contentious, so partisan, so divisive that, again, I have to say it, the American public is the loser. We don't want this squabbling in Washington. We want to see something get done.
That's for sure. That's for sure, Alan. So good to see you. At this time, there are some mixed messages over a report that the Trump administration struck a deal with Mexico's incoming government over asylum seekers at the southern border. We're going to talk about that, so don't go anywhere. Alan Dershowitz is back right after this. The question being that if there is movement on what would amount to a major policy overhaul, what would it be? Will it be considered? Is it a political win for the president? Alan Dershowitz is back, as well as our panel, Ed Rollins and former Senator Al D'Amato, here to weigh in as we look ahead today on Sunday Morning Futures.
Maybe he can give you a document here and there or some information that you can then get you to lead to another witness. But Corsi himself can't be used as a witness, even if he's corroborated. I don't think that Manafort can be used as a witness. They're too tainted. These are admitted liars.
What is it that they're trying to prove out here? That somehow Corsi or Manafort was
knew in advance, maybe about some of the WikiLeaks, and maybe coordinated WikiLeaks with the campaign. It's all very, very speculative, and none of it's illegal. That's the point. I mean, you know, Mueller should be looking only at crimes, not at political sins. And, you know, even if they could prove some degree of connection between the campaign and the Russians, which I haven't seen much evidence of, collusion's not a crime. It's just not a crime. The only thing that would make it a crime is if somebody in the campaign told WikiLeaks, hack the Democratic committee, or told the Russians where to hack or how to hack. That would be accessory before the fact. But other than that, it's not a crime.
Do you think Robert Mueller knows and understands that?
I do. And I think if he's smart, he won't accuse anybody in his report. He won't accuse the president of a crime. He'll just lay out the facts, leave it to the American public to decide. But there'll be indictments, and he's making deals. And, you know, prosecutors have enormous power to make deals and to flip witnesses. Sometimes witnesses not only sing, but they compose. And that's the danger if they elaborate on their story in order to get a better deal.
Well, Professor, as you point out, if these people aren't really credible witnesses, then what are you left with anyway, even if they're, you know, the world's greatest composer suddenly?
Well, you can't use them as witnesses, even if you can corroborate their testimony, but you can use them as leads toward other witnesses who might be more credible. That's what a good prosecutor would do, and Mueller's a good prosecutor.
Professor Alan Dershowitz,
my pleasure.
So much.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Okay, is the shutdown at the southern border a political win for the president? Our panel is going to weigh in on that top story right here next.
Ron.
On the southern border, I want to bring in our panel. Ed Rollins, former campaign manager for the Reagan-Bush 84 ticket, and Al D'Amato, former Republican senator from New York. Both are Fox News contributors, and we got so much going on. You heard Congressman Himes earlier in the show. He had a pretty, I guess, aggressive response to the first interview that I had that was talking about the thousands of people that are at our border right now. What do we do about the situation? His answer is to spend more money in places like Honduras and Guatemala and Mexico to ensure that these people don't want to come here in the first place. But I'm curious to get your take.
That's a traditional Democrat. Spend more of our money somewhere else, not on the people that live here, and totally contrary to what President Trump wants to do. My sense is if we can make this deal with the new Mexican government to keep the camps, even if we have to pay for the camps, in Mexico, it's much better than trying to have 6,000 or 10,000 people come across the border at Christmas time or the first of the year, what have you. You're not going to find in the short term any ability of this Congress to have a bipartisan on immigration or a wall or any of the rest of it, and that's what we need. We need, and that's going to take a year, maybe 2 years. It took Reagan 5 years to get the 86 bill. And my sense is if this president wants this, he has to make the Democrats swap some things, and he has to give some things. But right now, it would be much better if the Mexicans would do it for us.
Does that mean also playing tough? I mean, in terms of potential government shutdown?
Look, I don't know about the shutdown in terms of whether you get the wall or not, but the president is absolutely right that you cannot have open borders, and that's basically what we have now. I'm disappointed that it would appear that the Mexican government is retreating from a position that it had initially taken. That's probably because the left wing in their own party has raised objections to the new president coming in, making this announcement. That would have been excellent. That's the way to do it. You have people, before they come in, fill out the paperwork, etc. And you may say, well, look at all the time that they take. Well, you've got people who are waiting for 2, 3, 4 years. What about them? You just come in ahead of them? You have nobody who really vets their application to see whether it's legitimate or not? So this is nonsense. And you'd send billions of dollars to those countries, and they're not going to change. Yeah, the fact is, it is ridiculous. And it was nothing, the congressman was nothing but pure political dribble so he could feed the left wing. and that's what you're getting today.
And go after me. But one of the things that he said was that, well, we should think long and hard about why is it that you've got all these people that are wanting to come here and say, you know, get a job in a place like Stanford.
Listen, I have a granddaughter going to college, and I'll tell you what they're teaching them. They're teaching them open borders. The world has a right to
he said,
immigrate here.
he said, no, we don't want open borders. He said that's a fallacy, but he did say we ought to be thinking about what it is that we can do in these places to make, things more equitable.
It's not our job to go straighten out, and we've tried that in the past. It always ends up being graft to these countries, to the leadership of these countries, and whatever we spent on Honduras or what have you, we're not going to make it the country that still not, people want the American dream, and you can't have open borders. You just can't.
So where does this go?
Oh, I think we go through a 2, 3, maybe even the whole term. I just don't think you're going to get any short-term fixes here, and especially now with a bipartisan or no bipartisan. You're going to have 2 different houses controlled by Democrats and Republicans, but I don't see any bipartisanship on this.
Let me say, the president's right when he says, I'm going to close the border if we can't come to a resolve. And he's absolutely right. I support him on this. You just cannot have people coming over illegally, improperly, and catch and release. I've never heard of such an idiotic program. Only here in America would we allow this.
So good to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That does it for us on Sunday Morning Futures. I'm Trish Regan in for Maria. I'm going to see you at 8 p.m. on Monday night on the Fox Business.
This food truck is our baby. And like any baby, it's loud, stressful.
Which is clearly what he did. But